We're going to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to Belonging by Design, the power of peer mentorship in inclusive schools, presented by Lauren Link, Randy Morales, and a special guest, Caleb from Wheatland High School. I'm Sarah Lincoln, a SIP program specialist, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this breakout session. First, a few logistics. This session will be recorded and archived on the agenda page after the conference for 1 month. Closed captioning is available by clicking on the CC button on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. We will ensure the ASL interpreters are spotlighted along with the PowerPoint and the presenter. For Spanish, choose the icon at the bottom of the screen. Under the More section, look for the globe and choose Spanish, but be sure to mute your original audio. Thank you, and please ensure your volume is muted to avoid background distractions while presenters speak. We encourage you to engage with others in the chat and when possible, keep your camera on so we can see your faces. There may be time for Q&A, so make sure to put your questions in the chat or in the Q&A section. And with that, Lauren, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, good morning, afternoon. We're in afternoon officially now. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lauren Link. I am currently the brand new principal at Wheatland Union High School, and I am also the Executive Director of Student Services. So I'm excited to share with you today about our peer mentoring program and kind of where we started and where we've come and then where we plan to go in the future. So as Janelle and Sarah know, I kind of geek out over this stuff. So if I start to go on a tangent, someone please wave their hands and get me back to where we're supposed to be going. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you all can follow along. And if there are any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat because we'll pause a few times throughout to make sure that we're addressing those for each of you. Slideshow. Here we go. Okay, so our session today is Belonging by Design, the power of peer mentorship in inclusive schools. So this is me. And then Randy Morales is an instructional coach here. She's here in the room. She's not feeling great today, so she's here to support, but I'll be taking the lead. She and I have worked really extensively over the past several years to really increase our inclusive practices here on our high school campus. And this is just one facet, but we're excited to talk about it. We want to share our mission statement because about a year and a half ago, our district did some rework of our mission and our vision statement, because what we found was they're often very wordy, they're very difficult to remember, and although they have a lot of meaning, we felt like the impact was lost because nobody could tell us what our mission or our vision were. And so we worked with a team here and we came up with this one: every day, every child, whatever it takes. And for us, we really do live that every single day. We really believe in thinking outside the box and using creative problem solving to meet the needs of our students as well as our staff. And then our vision is that we are a destination of choice where students graduate confident, capable, and connected. And both of these, our mission and our vision, are really central to how we design our peer mentoring program here and why it's so impactful. I want to share with you kind of how we started and how it's going. So prior to 2019, I did not work for this district. I was an elementary school counselor, and when I came over to Wheatland, we really did kind of we operated, but at that time, the segregation model for students with disabilities. And that, for me, I transitioned into another role here on campus and started asking a lot of questions around why are these kids in this room all day long all alone? Why can't they be out with everyone else? Why can't we include them? And that is how I landed myself in kind of our director of special education role without any special education experience. So when we started to look at shifting our model and really including our students on campus, we really did kind of move through the integration phase where we started with small opportunities of where could we get our students more exposure? How could we provide them more opportunities? And so we moved from students in an SDC classroom isolated from the rest of the campus to some small areas where we started to push them into some, kind of low-hanging fruit, in my opinion, some electives that were, primarily hands-on, some of our CTE pathways that were primarily hands-on work. But as we've evolved, we've really kind of gotten to a true inclusion model where in the beginning, when I was starting to have these conversations with our staff, it was a lot of me selling that students with disabilities and specifically those with extensive needs have value here and that those students bring value to every classroom they enter. And I had to kind of go and pitch it, and kind of be a salesperson like, hey, this is going to be great and we're going to help you. And now we've gotten to a place that I'm really proud to say, I don't have to have any of those conversations. This is what we do here. This is who we are as a school and as a district. And so we're really proud. I was just working on our master's schedule and looking at it going, our students with extensive support needs really are able to take any class that they desire. And peer mentorship is a way that we make that work. So we started out with our peer mentor program really was a hand-picked, kind of selected group of familiar students. At the time, we were still in that kind of exclusion model where we ran an SDC classroom, and the staff in that room actually had children who attended high school here. And so it started with that, their children and their children's friends were coming into the room kind of to say hello to their family members and their friends as family members. And that kind of turned into like, oh, now we can eat lunch in here. Oh, now maybe we take so-and-so to go get their lunch at lunchtime. And when I stepped into the role, when I took over special education, we used that and then we said, what more could we do? How can we take this to the next step? And so the first year we ran it, we dedicated a class period. So one class period in the day, students with disabilities and students without disabilities came together for a class we called inclusive peer mentorship. And it was just one period of the day, and they would kind of they would do some structured activities together, sometimes some unstructured activities, but that was a good launching point to where we've taken it from there. So from that point, year one, in year two, we ran a couple different sections of that class. And then now we run it throughout the school day and we kind of sprinkle our mentors kind of throughout the day, depending on where our students need support. When I talk about this to other educators, one of the biggest things that I try to highlight is this didn't cost us any money. It didn't require us to make huge changes or find grant funding or convince my superintendent to fork out about a boatload of money. It really was just a scheduling issue. It was like, how do we make this fit into our schedule? And I'll get into that a little bit more as well. So this is how we structure this on our master schedule. And this is a question we get often is like, how does your master schedule look? And so what we do is when I master schedule for the whole school, I start with our extensive support needs classes. I master schedule those first, and then I determine where else might those students need to go. So they select their own electives. We started out with a limited number, there were like 5 or 6 choices they could choose from because I needed to push either paraeducator support or we'd create a co-taught section. But now, like I said, with universal design, we've been able to really move away from those constraints. And so we schedule the extensive support needs classes first. And within that, we drop a section of inclusive peer mentorship throughout every single period. So that gives us now anywhere from 2 to 5 students from general education, or actually some of them do have IEPs and that are really receiving their services through mild mod support. But those students now are available as a resource for us throughout the school day. So when a student says, I want to take video production, and it's a one-off, one kid with an extensive support need really wants to take video production, it's like, oh, okay, well, I have a peer mentor that period who also has taken video production. What a great partnership. And then they go together. That's probably the biggest crux of like how this really does work for us is the scheduling piece. It's the logistics of it. And then within that, we have kind of expanded to look at how can we now make it even better, right? We're always looking to improve. So it's an elective class, and in the past, we would sort of recruit students, and Caleb will sort of speak to that because he definitely was recruited. I saw him at an event that we did, and I was like, "Who's that guy with the curly hair? I need him." And so but now we have generated a lot more interest because of the way our school culture has changed on campus. We have a lot of students who are showing a lot of interest in wanting to work with this population and wanting to be a peer support. And so they're now applying, and we're not denying anyone. Let me be honest with you. We want all of them. But they actually like apply and they have to say, why do you want to do this? What interested you in it? And the responses are completely heartwarming. It makes me smile every time I read them. But then from there, moving into next school year, now that we have this year, I think Caleb and I were talking, I think we only have this year maybe 14 peer mentors on campus. We had previously a pretty good group, but a lot of them were seniors. And so they graduated the year before, and we lost some of our repeaters. But this year we'll lose again about another 7 or 8 who will be graduating seniors. But we have almost 30 who have applied to be peer mentors for 26, 27. So the types of classes that peer mentors are supporting in really does run the gamut. They're in core instruction. If that kid is taking a general education world history class, they may have a peer mentor. If they're taking a modified world history class, they may have a peer mentor. And sometimes in those modified classes or those resource rooms, what we do is we'll stick a couple of peer mentors in there, and they're just kind of like with everybody. They're really great about noticing who might need more support. And the way that a peer comes alongside is a lot different than the way an adult does. And so what we've found is that the impact that those peers have on each other is so powerful that it's really worth our while to continue to expand this program. We are working on kind of beefing up our training. So in the first couple of years, we had them shadow some of the paraeducators. We had them sort of just spend time in the classrooms. We've done a couple of structured trainings, but we hired a program specialist this year who's actually a BCBI, a behaviorist by trade. And he's really picked up this program and looks to expand it. And so he's preparing to do some more like some basic behavior strategies that students could use when, one of their peers is having a difficult moment, or when we're in classrooms and maybe our peers are having unexpected behaviors, and how do we, as a peer-to-peer support, provide that intervention and help that student be successful outside of special education classrooms. The other thing that we've seen is that it's kind of extended beyond the classroom now, where, a student like Caleb will be assigned to, fourth period biology, say. But when Caleb is outside of that class, Caleb's still a peer mentor. And so when he sees students in passing period, when he sees students at PE, when he sees students at rallies, oftentimes you'll find him checking in or making sure that they're doing okay. Maybe not even verbally, but from afar, just being someone on campus looking out for others. And so that's been something that's been really neat to sort of watch develop, is as we've grown kind of this culture of support, it's now becoming that students that aren't technically peer mentors are becoming peer mentors. Caleb's friends are also very kind, and so you'll see that a lot of them are very happy to help anyone who's in need. And then the next thing that we are doing currently is we have aligned this with our education pathway here. So students who have an interest in education as a career can take this in their sequence of classes as they complete their CTE pathway. It's not a concentrator or a capstone, it's an option. But what we found was that it really does help them get some classroom experience and decide if that's something that they're interested in. In addition to that, we took from, so in the first year, they take the course is titled Inclusive Peer Mentorship. But we found that we had many of them who wanted to do it again and again and again. And so after a year or two of this experience, we actually recode that class to be called Paraeducator Intern. And we did that because we wanted to give them a little more weight to it. That's something you could put on a resume. We let them, in their senior year, they can actually take the paraeducator assessment with us. And so we've had some that want to continue working in this field, and this gives them a way to do that. Any questions yet, Sarah?
No, but I am mad. You've never told me that it was the paraeducator intern. That is incredible because you already do have staff that have been students and peer mentors, correct?
Yes, and they keep coming back.
I love that. I love that because that is a common question when you have visitors on your campus, what they do for the CTE pathway and how they best support that. So that's a good answer to it.
Somebody asked, what are your thoughts on how this could work with K-2 children?
Okay. Randy said there was a question about how we could do this in elementary. So the good news is I came from elementary, and so I love those little loves. But I think it could look pretty similar. What I noticed at our one of our feeder districts here, I spend some time over there quite frequently. My own child is in elementary school, and as they are kind of working on their inclusion model, I see I see sometimes some opportunities for where you could run a model similar to this, right? Where it's not going to be a class because we don't run master scheduling in elementary school the same way, but you could kind of design your own coalition or your cohort of peer mentors, provide them that same type of training at an appropriate developmental level, and then partner them. I talk about it with our classroom teachers often is they when we started this and even moving into the beginning of this year, I had some new teachers that were like, but I have 6 kids with extensive support needs in my ceramics class. How do I support them all? And I said, you don't. Their classmates can support them. All it takes is identifying those students in the room who have a kind heart or who are kind of just intrinsically helpers and then asking them, hey, so and so needs help turning this in on Google Classroom, or so and so maybe they could you help them finish up this project? And those are ways I think would translate very well to elementary students. I mean, most of them are so excited to help anyone anyway. And so as long as we can help them have a little bit of understanding that we all do things a little bit differently and our needs aren't always the same, building that level of empathy in K2, I think, is a huge bang for our buck. And again, I think there's ways that you could do it there that would be free, right? Like if you just are identifying these special, your special peer includers or whatever you call it and make it a really cool name for those littles. That would be something that I think would be great. And I would love to see my feeder districts do that because then they get here and they'd already be experienced peer includers. So impacts that we've seen, we were really able to significantly improve our LRE percentages because we had moved from, just kids being really in primarily special education settings, really a pretty far away from it now. I have about 150-ish students with IEPs on our campus. Of those, maybe 25 to 30 have what we would consider extensive support needs and are on the alternative pathway to diploma. But of those, let's say 25, maybe 1, 2 spend the majority of their day in a special education setting. So those are pretty isolated cases where their needs are really high and they need a lot more support, but we're always looking for more opportunities to include. And those students are younger, and so I would anticipate that as they grow, as they mature, we'll be able to include them more and more on campus. Probably the thing I'm the most proud of, though, is the way that our school culture has changed. We have a very strong culture of inclusion here, especially for students with disabilities, where before, I think most of our students were just simply unfamiliar, and that was a little scary. And honestly, our staff, I think, felt that way too. They felt like, I don't know how to interact with someone with a disability. I don't know how to support the student in my classroom. And so they were very standoffish. But now it's become really who we are. And because of that, it's a place where I feel so confident and comfortable putting any student in any classroom. I really believe that our student body has just embraced their peers. And so it's things like this young man that you see here in the picture. He is, I think, our poster child of inclusion. He came from a he came from a special education school, had been in only special education settings without any typical peers from, I believe, first grade until 10th grade. So he transitioned to us in 10th grade, and his parents obviously were very concerned. But he was so excited. He wanted to go to school where his brother went to school. He wanted to be a Wheatland Pirate. And when we told him he was coming, he told his classroom teacher that she must refer to him as Mr. High School. And they had to call him that. He would not respond to his name for the remainder of the school year, which luckily for them, it was only like maybe 3 or 4 weeks at the end of the year coming into 10th grade. But it was just so charming. And he has come to this campus and he I cry a little bit when I tell his parents, like, your son has opened so many doors for others. He's very congenial. He's very involved. He's the kid, I mean, he dresses up for every spirit day. He participates in every activity we offer. He is now part of ASB. And that was a really easy ask. Like, this guy is like one of the most school-spirited individuals we have on campus. And so when I asked our ASB officers, like, hey, what did you think of him participating? They were like, heck yeah, bring him over. And so now he navigates our campus completely independently. I got a call from his mom maybe in the fall, and she was nervous because there had been an awkward interaction between him and a young lady. And she was like, I think he needs an adult walking him to class. And I had to tell her, Mom, I know it feels that way, but he really doesn't. He's doing very well, and he's a senior this year, so he's doing all the senior things, participating in everything he can. And so this is really the why of why we do this, but the impact has been so much bigger than an individual impact.
Lauren, he really is the mayor of Wheatland High
He's so
School.
great.
Yeah, so Mr. High School is a good name, but mayor also. We do have a question in the comment or in the chat. Do the students who get peer support have choices about getting that support and from whom? Can they opt out?
Yeah, so we do we honor their student agency and advocacy for themselves really on any level. And so what we do is really kind of feeling it out and looking at what is really the need. Is there a need? And we really do build those supports on an individualized level. So not every student who has an extensive support need or who has an IEP and is going to, game design class needs someone to support them. And so we're constantly looking to make shifts and adjustments as needed. But the other thing is I've had a kid come and say, I don't need this person. I don't want this person coming with me. I don't want them following me around. And so we talk about, like, okay, well, what would that look like? How do we make sure that you're being successful? Let's give it a trial period. And those are things that we do really adjust as needed. And so nobody's like, signed up for life or anything like that. The other thing we noticed on campus is the stigma around having a disability has changed. And I think some of this is societal, where we're just a lot more accepting. And this generation of young people really understands that we're all pretty different, and that's cool. And so I'm going to share a story. We have a game design class, but the teacher, I'm sorry, we have a computer science class who the teacher is our esports coach. And so it's a unique group of young people who, have a strong interest in tech. And so they were in the classroom, and the teacher overheard a student say to another student, "Oh my gosh, you're so autistic." And he jumped up to intervene. And just as he did so, the peer said, "Yeah, I know, isn't it awesome?" And so it's those things where we're just seeing a lot more acceptance for everyone, and kind of understanding that everyone is valuable here and everyone belongs. And that kind of takes me to the next bullet is we really have built a culture of belonging where people are connected here, regardless of their circumstances, regardless of their home life. We really prioritize making sure that people feel like a true Wheatland pirate, and that this is a place that we want them to be. And then our biggest takeaway or impact that was a surprise for us was what Sarah alluded to earlier, where we had some students who have gone through as peer mentors and then applied to work here as paraeducators because they want to remain connected to the program. They want to be involved. They've kind of found their niche. And I have to tell you, the young lady who I hired for this school year, who is a recent graduate, was the best interview I've ever had for a para. She talked about what an impact it had made on her as a person. She signed up initially not really understanding what it was she was getting involved in, and then talked a lot about how these students are not just people I help on campus. These students are my friends. I go there to eat lunch during the day because those are the people I want to hang out with. And so it's been really neat to see that develop, because I just had a third or a fourth one come back again who's trying to get her foot in the door. So she's currently a substitute paraeducator, and I'll probably hire her for the fall as well. It's interesting to have staff who are so close in age to the students who they are supporting. So that's a little bit difficult sometimes to navigate. Like when you become a staff member, there's some boundaries that we have to hold and things like that. But for the most part, they are very relevant to the students. They have, recent high school experience, so they can relate. And it's been a really great thing that I never anticipated happening.
You also mentioned you have this custodial staff member, and I was like, that's awesome. I want to.
Randy just threw in a little quip too. The other thing that we've had is we recently had a custodial staff member who now, because we've become such an inclusive campus, has had a lot more exposure to students with extensive support needs, who approached us and said, "I want to do that. How do I get involved with your programming? I want to be this close to students. I want to be a support to them." And so that's been kind of neat too, is within our organization, more people are coming out of the woodwork to want to be involved, want to make an impact, and want to be positive people for all of our students, but specifically those with disabilities. Any questions? Before I turn it over, I'm going to introduce Caleb.
Lots of hearts.
Lots of hearts.
Lots of hearts.
Thanks, guys. All right. So where's the picture go? Oh, there he is.
Oh.
Okay. I'm going to let you sit. So Caleb is a peer mentor, and we're going to have him talk about kind of his experience from the student perspective. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Caleb. I'm a peer mentor at Wheatland, and I'm going to answer some questions and talk about the peer mentor program.
All right, Caleb. How long have you been a peer mentor?
So I've been a peer mentor for a year now. I started at the beginning of this year, and I'm going into the end of the year.
What inspired you to join?
So I transferred last year from another school that didn't have a program like this, and I would see like the disability students who like I see them at lunch because like we know we don't really see them anywhere else. So like at lunch, I see like they only hang out with each other. And like I remember when I first got to high school, it was like, and I would think like it's not fair that they don't get to interact because I know it was hard to interact with people coming into high school. So to know it's especially like harder for them, that they definitely deserve like some kind of help to be able to have the same experience as everyone else. So when I had the opportunity to be a peer mentor presented to me, I immediately said yes.
Yeah, you did. So let me see if I can get back in here. I want to share how we met Caleb. So we run an inclusive basketball event here on our campus. Last year was kind of our maiden voyage where we invite other schools around us to come and really provide a place for students with extensive support needs to shine. And Caleb was pretty new to us at that point, and he and a couple of his buddies like hopped out there onto the court and were so incredible with this population, just kind and helpful and willing to do whatever was needed. And I didn't know Caleb yet. And so I told my secretary at the end of the day as we were kind of wrapping up the event, like, we need to find that boy with the curly hair and his friends. And so we ended up recruiting them, and we had some of them that were really honored to be asked. And so it was really heartwarming to see them really have the affinity and then recognize, like, oh, I can do this every day and be excited to do that. So, Caleb, tell us what does a typical day look like for you?
A typical day for me, I go through all my classes regularly, but ever since I've been in the class, like now I have all like new friends from the disability classes and all that. So I get to see them around and it's not like before. And like I'd say at my old school, like I never had the chance to talk to them, but it's fun to get to know pe new people. And so yeah, I have my normal classes I go to, then I go to peer mentoring, like the class for peer mentoring, and I get to hang out with them and see how they learn and see like what a day of the life is for them. And it's fun to just hang out and get to see that. But yeah, now as a peer mentor, I get to have these new friends, see everybody around. I get to be more like see that they're more included with everyone. I get to introduce them to my friends, and then that just goes on and they get introduced to my friends' friends, and then that just makes them more included. So it's good to see that happen.
How would you say that being a peer mentor has impacted you?
It's definitely helped with social skills, like, and especially having more confidence in myself, because I know like confidence is definitely something that you need in life to have a good social life and all that. So it's encouraged me to work on my social skills because I see how much I have, like how much more easily it was for me to be included than it was for them. So it helps me learn to be more social and have better social skills.
What would you say to someone who is thinking about becoming a peer mentor?
I would say definitely do it. And if you don't think if you're not sure if you're gonna like it, once you get into it, it's definitely something that you want to stay in. I mean, at the middle of this year, I had a choice to drop two electives so I can have a short day instead of be here for 7 periods. And I actually changed my whole schedule around so that I can stay in the peer mentor class.
No.
Yeah, it's because I dropped football class. So I dropped football and guitar class.
That's so great. Thank you, Caleb.
Of course.
Are there any questions for Caleb?
He's getting.
There is a question in the chat that I would love to gear towards Caleb and then towards you, Lauren. It's about families. I want to know how your family responded to you wanting to be a mentor, Caleb. Then, Lauren, I'll ask you about the other part of the question.
Well, my mom was really happy when she heard that I was offered to become a peer mentor. And she, like, when I told her I was going to keep the class, she was like, she threatened me that if you better not drop that class. But I wasn't in my plan anyway. So, and my dad works here too. And he's definitely like a good friend to all of them too. So he was happy to see that I was in the class as well.
Oh, Caleb. Lauren, have families at your school been supportive of the peer program elective? And Was there any hesitation or pushback from parents who may not have understood how it would benefit their child?
So, the families at the school are very supportive. I would say that in the beginning, there were some concerns around confidentiality and how that would look. We do not allow the peer mentors to see any confidential documents. They do not review IEPs. We do share little snippets of information that are maybe need to knows in terms of, so and so might, have a difficult time with this specific thing, or here's what you could do if you notice that this person is struggling, but we really don't share like what their disability is specifically. We don't share anything that's part of their IEP with the students, just to make sure that we're maintaining our FERPA obligations here. And so once we kind of got past that hurdle, actually parents who would have previously, I think, kind of pushed for us to assign a paraeducator to their student really did get on board with, we have all this peer support. And a lot of times what I share is we actually find that our students respond better to their peers than they do to the adults. And most parents can relate to that and go, oh, yes, that makes a lot of sense. And so, no, I would say it hasn't been very difficult for us to establish that trust with families, and they've really been supportive.
And Lauren, have any students asked to have a peer mentor as part of their IEP team?
No, and that's actually a really interesting question because that would be an interesting perspective. But no, we haven't had that, but we also haven't offered it. So I would be interested to see if we did kind of figure out how that would work, what they would say. Because sometimes, when IEP meetings are pretty intimidating for teenagers, and having a Caleb come sit with you while you're there might be something that could be a pretty big support.
Yeah. Here's another question for Caleb. Are you ready, Caleb?
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the typical experience high school students have transitioning to high school, struggling with confidence, social skills, etc. How do you help your peers with this process?
I really just keep them I keep them with me. They see how I interact with people, and I like help them if they have any questions about somebody. I'd like encourage them to interact with them, and then my friends are amazing too. They all love all the kids, so we we all just show each other we show them how to interact and what it should look like to be in a good have a good social experience in high school.
I love that. Lauren, who does the peer mentor report back to if they need to talk to a staff member, special ed teacher, the general ed teacher, and if the general ed teacher is on board with the program?
Yes. So what we've done up until this point is we really have only one like sort of quasi SDC program on our campus. And so that teacher has been the point of contact as we've grown the program. Moving forward, what we've done is we've shifted it to a program specialist really overseeing the peer mentor program as a whole, because it's gotten to be too much for a classroom teacher who's also, teaching all day long. But what we would envision moving forward is we assign them to now individual teachers. So like if they are a PE peer mentor, they are assigned to the PE teacher. They're not assigned to a special ed teacher. So we kind of treat them as TAs in a sense in the way that we schedule them. But moving forward, what I think we need to do probably a better job of as we come back from summer break is really educating those teachers on how do they seek support if they need it, and two, how do they support their peer mentors in the class, and what does that role really look like?
I love that. Do peer mentors receive any training regarding behaviors of students?
Yes, so this year was our first year really implementing any kind of training model formally. Previously, it was a lot of experiential training. So shadowing, kind of just gaining experience in the classroom, learning the different students in the room and what their needs might be. There was a lot of modeling going on with the paraeducators and the teachers where the peer mentors could kind of watch and see how that interaction looked. And then they've sort of been doing like a trial and error kind of thing, I would say, right, Caleb? Like where it's like, well, that didn't work. I got to approach this person a little differently, just
Yeah.
like they do with any of their other peers, right? But moving forward, what we're looking to do is be more formal with our training and really provide them those basic strategies in terms of behavior supports, because some of our students do need behavior support. And it is, like I think I've said now probably 72 times, it's different coming from a teenager than it is from an adult. And so that even I think needs to be a consideration when we do behavior support training is like, what is appropriate for a peer to intervene in? What is appropriate for a peer to support in versus what really does an adult need to be part of?
I love this next question. Where can we get information on getting the peer mentor program into our schools? And is it district-wide or dependent on individual schools?
So for full disclosure, we're basically a one school district. We are very rural and small. We're high school only, and we have really one site. We have a few different sort of schools within the school, but really our comprehensive school is our only campus. And so it's very easy for us to do district-wide initiatives because we're just all here. But remind me the other part of the question, Sarah.
Where can you get info?
Oh, where can we get info? Well, I
Yes.
will share that in an upcoming slide. We will actually be a demonstration site for SIP going into next school year. We're very excited. So please come and you'll get to see it in action. And it's actually kind of interesting. We've had a couple of other schools visit and want to see what we do here. And I have to kind of explain to them, it doesn't really look like we're doing anything. It just looks like teenagers supporting each other. But it is neat to see once we say like, oh, and that kid right there, he's a peer mentor. Oh, okay, now I see it. But when you walk into a classroom, it just looks like a typical general education classroom in most cases.
And Caleb, Janelle gave you a heart.
Thank you.
Julie gave you a heart. Evelyn,
Lots of hearts for Caleb.
Claudia,
Lots of hearts for Caleb.
Ingrid, Heather.
Okay. Any last Caleb questions?
No, that was it for the Caleb questions. Thank you so much, Caleb.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Caleb. What a guy. He's the best.
Yeah.
Okay, so our other outcomes is that, like I shared earlier, we'll be about double in size and number of our peer mentors this coming school year. So we're very excited about that because that just means more opportunities for everyone. We also do honor our peer mentors as seniors. So it's something that we really want to recognize them for. The way that this adds to our campus culture in such a positive manner, I think is really commendable. And so our peer mentors close your ears. They receive a certificate, a special graduation cord, and then we always recognize one or two really high achieving or ones that have maybe been invested in the program for multiple years. We do a special award for them as well, really as a thank you, but also just a way to acknowledge the dedication that they've provided to our school.
Yeah.
Another thing that we do is inclusive athletics, and we get a lot of questions about unified sports. And because we are so small, it's very difficult for us to run really truly unified sports as a program because we just don't have the student population and the interest to do so. But what we have found is that our students with extensive support needs, such as this gentleman in the picture, are included in sports the same as their general education peers. So for example, our track team doesn't do cuts. Not everyone gets to participate in every track meet, depending on kind of upon their, I don't know, their athletic prowess. But this young man is actually extremely fast. And so he's just on the track team. I mean, he wanted to do track. He went out for tryouts. He's part of the team. And when you go out to those track meets and you watch all of those athletes supporting each other, but specifically this young man, it's really, that's where the money is, right? Like that's the biggest impact is doesn't have anything to do with any adults. It's just them supporting their peers. Our staff response has been really positive. It was very difficult for me as a leader in the beginning, where, like I said, I had to kind of sell it. I had to convince people. I had to really kind of assuage those fears that people held in their minds. And now it's become something that people are really proud of being involved in. We did a training this year, early in the year, about UDL, and we had all of our teachers come in small groups to participate. And we had a group, Randy and I were facilitating. We had a group in which it was like right after lunch, teachers were tired, they were just kind of like not engaged until we got to a part about a story. And one of my most veteran teachers, a little bit curmudgeon-y sometimes, raised his hand and said, "Can I share a story?" And I thought to myself, oh no. But I was like, oh, okay. I had no idea what was about to come out of this man's mouth. But he shared a story about including a student who has some pretty significant needs in his classroom and how proud he felt when he was able to get that student to engage in a group project in his room. And when that happened, everyone in that room woke up and they all had a story to share. And that was really, really powerful for both Randy and I. Like, oh wow, like we don't have to convince these people anymore. They are seeing the value on their own. And so that's been a huge shift for us, is where we had to sort of convince or contrive situations to allow access for our students. We don't do that anymore. The other piece is that now, when I say this is who we are, we present ourselves that this is who we are. We are an inclusive campus. These are the things that we do here. So when we are interviewing new staff or potential new staff, we're asking them about inclusion. We actually, in the question, say, we are an inclusive campus. You will have students in your classes who have extensive support needs, who are English language learners, who have 504 plans. How will you design your classroom to support access for all? And that's a really key question for us, right? And we've had people that have been an absolute no based on how they've answered that question, but we've also had many who are an absolute yes for us if they're already kind of on board with this work. And then the other piece is, from the moment they start here as a new teacher or a new staff member, we introduce ourselves as, this is who we are, this is what we do here. So before I was the principal, I was the executive director of student services and I oversaw special education, and I would go into new teacher orientation and have a slide and say, this is who I am. This is what we do here. You will see these students around campus. You will have them in your classes. I'm here to support. And that way it's not a surprise. And it's also not something then we're having to fight, kind of some deeply ingrained beliefs. It's hard to undo that part. And so really being thoughtful about how we hire and then how we onboard has really helped us advance this work. And then we provide ongoing support and professional development. I almost never say no when a teacher comes and says, hey, I have this kid in my class and I have this idea and it might look a little different, but I have this thought about it. I always listen. And then it's like, what do you need? What do you need me to order something? Do you need me to advocate for you? Do you need me to provide you additional support? Do you need training? And that way I never want teachers to feel like they're doing this alone, because sometimes it is a lot and it can feel like a burden, and we never want it to feel like that. And so we work really hard to make sure everyone feels supported always. So as I said, we're not at the golden anything. We are proud of where we've gotten, but there's still work to be done. And so we talked earlier about, we're really looking to expand that peer mentor training. And then we want to continue to align with other CTE pathways. So we're looking at like what other pathways, would maybe have interactions in a career field with people with disabilities or people with extensive support needs specifically, and how can we provide that experience through that lens as well. And so we've talked about, aligning with our patient care pathway, aligning with our sports medicine pathway. We have our sports medicine is also sort of a kinesiology pathway specifically. And so I would love to look to how do we partner our adaptive PE classes with some of these students who are interested in this field. And then next for us is we are excited to be a demonstration site next year and invite people to come and walk around and see what we do and kind of get the feel. We just, like I said, we just concluded on Tuesday our inclusive basketball event, and that was really great. It was our second year hosting it ourselves, and we really do it up big. We do shirts, we do lunch for everybody. We highlight, we have mini games, we have sports expo. We invite all of our ASB classes, our link crew. We have student athletic directors. So this year the students really ran the event, which was really cool. But the thing that we notice is that it's cool to be inclusive here. So like when everyone got a t-shirt, there's kids who weren't involved in those programs who are like, hey, can I get one of those t-shirts? That's really cool. And then one of my big takeaways this year was one of our visiting schools brought one of their PE coaches and their athletic director, and they stopped me and said, hey, this is really cool. We want to do this at our school. Would you guys come if we hosted a soccer event? And that was really neat because now it's another opportunity for our students to get a different type of experience, go visit a different school, and kind of get that perspective as well.
The senior banners for athletes.
Oh, Randy just pointed out the other thing we do in our inclusive basketball event, we do the same things we would do for all of our athletes here. So like our seniors get a senior banner with their picture and their name and everything, just like our seniors on the softball team or the basketball team get. And then the other piece is that this year our athletic director got involved. And this is where I'm talking about, like, this has very little to do with me anymore. Our athletic director got involved and said, we should give the seniors their letter. Couldn't we do that? And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Do you think the other schools would do that as well? And so he got with the other athletic directors, and all of the seniors who participated got to earn their varsity letter. And so that was really a neat experience for them as well.
If there are no other questions, I want to thank Lauren, Randy, and Caleb, the special guest, for being here today. And thank you to everyone here today for your continued commitment to students with disabilities and their families. Our shared mission is to design an educational system that innovates, elevates, and creates meaningful, positive experiences for all learners from early childhood and beyond. You can access the slides for this presentation in the session description on the VFAIR's agenda page. If you have additional questions, please visit the information booth. You may find the answers you're looking for there. Be sure to join us for a DJB Diamond dance break. Also, connect with other attendees in the social lounge and stop to take a selfie in the photo booth. Don't forget to share on your socials and tag @SIPImpact with the hashtag SIPCon2026. Remember, at the end of the event, the top attendees on our leaderboard will receive their pick between an inclusive book bundle or free registration for one person to one of the following upcoming conferences: MTSS PLI in Anaheim, July 14th through the 16th, or the Cal XC Symposium in Burlingame, October 20th to 21st. Thank you, everybody.